it is 2 o'clock. We're going to start the special called meeting of the Purchasing Committee for May 2nd, 2024. Carla, will you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Phillips?
Here.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Here.
Commissioner Boyd?
Here.
Commissioner Gooch?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner P? Chairman Carr?
Here.
Thank you.
Vice Chairman P is not here to approve the minutes of the previous meeting, so I'm going to recognize Commissioner Gooch. Commissioner Gooch, have you had a chance to review the minutes of the previous meeting?
I have, I just did. Jeff is just full of it today.
He is. Do you
I
find
found that to be appropriate. My motion is to approve.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the minutes stand approved. Thank you, Commissioner Gooch, for that timely response. We only have one thing on our agenda today. Oh, before we get to that, no public comments?
Yes.
We only have one thing under our agenda today, and that is we took under advisement the opening of the bids for the transfer station from earlier this week, and I'm going to ask Bart Klein of Klein Associates to come join us, and if you want to join us too, Bishop, you may. But we're going to kind of talk about the process a little bit, and then we have a recommendation from Mr. Klein and myself, but we want to discuss that just a little bit. So Bart, do you have something, Jeff, you want to? No. Okay. So Bart, why don't you kind of go through a little bit of what the process we went through, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so we all had the bid here yesterday, so then we review the bids for validity, making sure they have all the addendums accounted for, qualifications, bond, all the items checked. And then typically we award the bid to the low bidder, assuming that they're qualified. So every bidder had qualifications in there in terms of the type of buildings they've done, experience. Overall, everyone that bid this is qualified to do the project. The low bidder was Boyce Ballard at $7,330,000. We have a contingency in this project of roughly $200,000, which is owner-controlled contingency in case we run into an unforeseen item. And we also have 2 unit prices. They have confirmed that they have all of that in their bid. So we would recommend to award the project to Boyce.
There were 3 bids that were pretty darn close to each other.
Yes. Yeah.
This Boyd Ballard, where are they located?
We're here on Murfreesboro.
Yeah, they're right on the square.
Yeah.
And our estimate was about 8.8 is what our estimate was for this work. So we're falling right in between. So it's a fair bid.
And I would remind the committee, this is only the authorization for the mayor to negotiate a contract. The contract still has to be negotiated. So if for some unknown reason we can't negotiate a contract, then obviously we would have to come back to this committee for a second alternative. I don't anticipate that, but I want to remind the committee that this is the authorization to negotiate that contract.
Would you be involved in the negotiations?
And that's pretty much, and as would Eric, and finally Nick would be, of course, right? So it's the same thing we've done previously, no change. But I just want to remind that there is a contract is the final part of this to be done.
Yeah, we've already kind of worked on the county's contract, so we don't expect an issue. But if for some reason the Boyce did not accept the contract, you would go to the next bidder, and you would continue until you work out.
Is Director Wagner involved in the negotiations?
Not on the contract. The contract's pretty much, he was certainly involved, Bishop was involved in the preparation of what the transfer station would look like that would reflect in the bid, certainly. But he if not in the contract, we leave that to the attorneys, Commissioner. Any questions? So Bart and I agree on the recommendation that the low bidder is a qualified bidder, and we believe that they can do the work. And so at this point, unless there are any further questions or discussion, what we want to do is we need a motion and a second to engage Boyce Ballard, excuse me, help to get it right, Boyce Ballard, and negotiation of the contract, which we would do in an expedited manner.
Everything you just said, I move to approve.
You don't want to repeat any of that? Okay.
And I'll second everything he said.
We have a motion and a second. This is important. I want to make sure if there's any further questions or comments, we're able to do that. This is important. This is extremely high-profile project for the county. This county has come long before I got here. This county's been trying to solve this problem, and so this is an extremely high-profile initiative for the county, and I think everybody understands that it needs to be successful, and this is a very important part of that, and Bart and I have had those conversations, so I don't want to just jam this through or rush through it. It's important. So if there are questions or comments or anything, please air out here.
In the event, when you go through negotiations, that they fall through, what's the next step?
Well, thanks for clarity, because I think Bart and I kind of said two different things a little bit there. If the committee authorizes, then what we would do, since all three of the three low bidders, I would just want a permission to negotiate with the second lowest bidder at that point. Wouldn't that be appropriate, Bart?
Yes.
I don't anticipate that, but that's what I would recommend. But that's for the commission and committee.
I'll add that to my amendment, my motion, if that's okay.
And I'll second.
Okay, excellent.
May I ask a question?
You can.
There's on this Boyce Ballard, their cubic yard price, their unit price for both number 1 and number 2 are higher than the next two. Why are they significantly different with higher unit prices?
It's just the way it was bid.
So
you can't really question one bidder to the other. What you question is, do they have it covered in their base bid? So that each one of these contractors, while they're giving you a different cost, they could be going to somebody else. They could be, it's why you pay $1.50 for a Pepsi at Crystal's and $1.75 at McDonald's.
Well, I would understand that if it were the other way around, but they have a higher number of per unit price and a lower number of per overall cost. That would mean that there is some discrepancy in the yardage that's calculated. Was that accounted for in?
No, that's not right, because it could actually be that they got the prefab metal building for less cost than the other manufacturer. They could have got the electrical contractor for another. So they have like 10 subs. So you got to look at all of that.
So, and I want to add, these two addendums are addendums. What's being considered by the committee as the low bid is the base price.
Which includes those unit prices within it.
That's correct. And so it may be to the advantage of the county to withdraw those or not. So that is part of the negotiated part of this. So they don't assume that those are automatically going to be included in the final contract.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
So it's a unit price with a base quantity, such as, for instance, unit price 1 is running between $45 and I think $80 a cubic yard, but they've included 500 cubic yards or whatever cost they included in their bid. So if we do not utilize that money goes back to the owner, and the owner can use that. And same thing with the other unit price. So it's included, but it's up to us if we utilize that cost.
Thank you.
So if this did fall through,
You talk about the negotiations?
let's say you're gonna take the second highest,
lowest bidder,
or
yes, sir.
second lowest.
Yes, sir.
Would that come back to us, or it's just automatic?
Well, that was what I was, and so I think Commissioner Phillips' motion was no, we're going to go ahead and give you the authority to negotiate if it falls through to expedite. Again, that puts us another 30 days behind. I'd rather do it the way he's asked, but I'm at the will of the committee.
Since we've had special call meetings, and this is just to handle this situation, I'd hate to have another special call meeting just to handle that when we know that the sequence we're going to go through. So the motion includes that.
Yes, thank you.
So is the second lowest bid same?
That's correct. And again, I have copies of all the bids, but these three in particular, if you ever want to review them, they're in the office, so absolutely you're welcome to come by and pick them up and review them. Any other questions or comments? If seeing none, without objection, we'll do a roll call vote. And this is to accept the Boyce Ballard bid for negotiation as stipulated in the motion.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner McAdie?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Carr?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other business before the committee? Gentlemen, let me just say thank you very much. I know we've had several special call meetings. I appreciate your indulgence. They're important, and if it weren't such a high-profile project, it might not have been necessary, but again, I thank you for that, and without objection. Yep, yep,
Just
yes, sir.
a clarification.
Yes, sir.
So our next meeting is March the 14th?
May the 14th.
May
I'm sorry,
May
May
14th.
14th. And that's also our budget meeting night. Oh,
Yeah.
will
Oh.
our business conclude, you think, within
This
an
should be
hour?
through.
We will ensure that if you can keep the levity, Commissioner Gooch,
Like I
to a
did
mi-
today.
to a minimum.
Like I did today.
And show up on time. We will endeavor to. With that, we stand adjourned.
I can't, my mouth shut.